Hey everyone, Digital David here. Today in this video, I'm going to be checking out the Mech Hero by ZOTAC Gaming desktop PC, specifically the model number A7646i. ZOTAC is sponsoring today's video, but any opinion expressed in this video is strictly my own. That being said, if you're interested in this product or you want to find out more about it, the link to it will be in the video description. Here's a look at the retail box and packaging. It's not until you turn it to the side that you see we have our really exciting collaboration, ZOTAC Gaming and Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse movie, which means we have some great accessories that are included with this computer. Now let's go ahead, let's open it up and see what's inside. Here's a look at all the accessories. You'll notice we have a ton of Spider-Man across these Spider-Verse themed accessories here. A lot of stickers and emblems. You'll see 3 minifigures that come in this really nice box. So take a look at the packaging of those minifigures. Really cool. You can learn more about them on the back side right there. You'll also see that we got a tote bag. We did get a couple PC accessories here that you would expect. Power cord, Wi-Fi antennas. I wanted to show you the minifigures up close. Removable back there, removable stand comes with them. Color-coded and matched. Really nice detail there. They look really cool to have on display in or on your PC. I'm thinking that's going to be a good idea. So cool. So really nice minifigures. Now let's look at the PC. So I wanted to show you the PC during shipment and how everything looks. They took the time and attention to detail to tape the door shut to protect that during shipping, as well as to put that airbag inside to protect all of our parts and components. Always great to see. So looking at the top of our computer, you'll see we have a removable and magnetic dust cover right there. Just snaps right on. You can slide it into place. All of our I/O on the top for our front panel. We got our mic and headphone jacks, 3 USB ports, reset button, 2 indicator lights, and our power switch. Moving right along to our front panel, you'll notice it's a solid metal piece. There is ventilation on the side for airflow. Mech Hero branding down at the bottom, and underneath you have a grip handle here you can use to pull to remove the front panel. Front panel's been removed, revealing our 3 120mm RGB fans. And take a look at the back side of the panel so you can see what that looks like, how thick it is, and get a feel for that mesh venting along the sides. Next, we're looking at the bottom of our PC. You'll see we have 4 nice feet, solid support for it, and we have a nice gap there allowing air to flow under to help cool our power supply. Now we're looking at the very back of the PC. We have our exhaust fan, some additional venting, power supply with our toggle on and off switch. We have our motherboard I/O right here, as well as our expansion slots with our GPU already installed. Now we're looking at the back side panel here, just a solid black piece of metal with our front panel and its mesh venting right there. We have to remove these 2 screws so we can pull this panel off. Panel's been removed. Now look at our cable management. They did a fantastic job with this build. Everything looks so nice. You'll see too, we have room for additional expansion with 2 2.5-inch SSDs if we want, as well as a couple 3.5-inch drives. Extra power cords for accessories, things like that that are accessible from our power supply. I do want to point out that is not a fully modular power supply, but everything's really easy to get to and plenty of room to add anything, reroute, rearrange as we see fit. Now you'll see on the very front we have our tempered glass door that's magnetic and on hinges, revealing the inside of our computer. Inside you'll find a lot of familiar parts and components from name brands: AMD CPU, ZOTAC Gaming GPU, Kingston Fury RAM, ASRock motherboard, Seagate 1TB SSD, Thermaltake 600-watt power supply. Great to see all the fans that are included. Again, triple on the front. We have 2 on our AIO as well as an extra for our exhaust. So 6 fans with this build, 3 pushing air in, 3 pushing air out. Really clean, really nice, looks great. You may have noticed too, we have a removable magnetic plate on our GPU with our Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse movie graphics on it, exclusively in cinemas. That looks really cool. So that's pretty sweet, and it's just got magnets on the back so it can just snap right on. Now, let's go ahead, let's power this thing up and try it out. So we got the PC booted up, everything works great. You'll initially be greeted with a Windows 11 setup screen. Then eventually you'll be at your desktop here with the Mech Hero background. First thing I wanted to look at was the main SSD. You'll see that out of that 1 TB capacity, we have 921 GB, of which 884 gigabytes remain available for us to use. I haven't downloaded anything yet. Also thought I'd show you our system specs here. Ryzen 5 7600X for our CPU, and we have our ZOTAC Gaming RTX 4060 Ti for our GPU. In regards to pre-installed programs and apps, I thought we'd just browse through everything really quickly. You can see we got video editor. You might notice we already have Discord and Spotify on the desktop installed, MSI Center, NVIDIA control panel. Most is just going to be your typical Microsoft Office programs, trials, things like that. But I thought we'd browse through them. You'll see the Xbox and Xbox Game Bar, and then we have ZOTAC's Firestorm software. Other than that, though, nothing else installed. Very normal Windows 11 experience. Now let's get to the fun stuff. Let's benchmark and test out this PC and see what it's capable of. First thing we tested out was the included 1TB SSD, and you'll see our read and write speeds right here. So first up, using Crystal Disk Mark, we got read speeds of up to 2,500 megabytes per second and write speeds up to almost 1,900 megabytes per second. With AS SSD, you're seeing similar results here, a little bit lower as expected. 2,100 megabytes per second for our read speed and 1,600 megabytes per second for our write speeds. That's well within the NVMe Gen 3 speeds you would expect with a drive like this. Moving right along, let's talk about our CPU, the AMD Ryzen 5 7600. You'll see it's a 6-core processor, a bunch of other specs and technical information if you want to pause to look it over. Our motherboard, ASRock motherboard, specifically the model B650M-C. Let's look at our CPU performance. Single thread score of 700, multi-thread score of 5886. Let's see how that stacks up against the competition. So you'll see our single thread score comes in right here on the chart at 601. We got 700, so we did even better. So that performance would put you in line with the 11700, 5700G, 5800X3D, single core. Again, 700, we're actually further up here with our results. So we'd be right in between the 12700H and the 12500, above the 11900K, which is amazing, and the 12400 and the 12100. In regards to multi-thread, you'll see we finish up at the top with the 7600X. We got a score of 5800, so right below the X variant of this CPU, but well above the 12600 series, 12400, previous AMD Ryzen 5 5600X and 5600 right there. So doing really well, top of the pack with our multi-thread performance. Cinebench R23 results are in. You'll see we got a multi-core score of 12,856 and a single core score of 1609. So looking at nanoreview.net's benchmark results, this CPU, the 7600, came in at 99, above the 10900X from Intel. Couple mobile CPUs above the Ryzen 7 5800, actually above the 5700X as well too, which is interesting. But you get a general idea of where this CPU is going to sit. Geekbench 6 results are in. We're seeing a single core score of around 12600 and a multi-core score of around 11,200. How does that stack up against the competition? Well, you'll see the results right here for our 7600 for single core score. Above the 13600, the 12900, 13700, you get the idea. Right below the 7800X 3D and the 13900 right there from Intel, and a smidge below the 7700 from AMD. Multi-core score telling a very similar story. You'll see we're well within range for a couple CPUs. We're kind of mixing and matching right here. So slightly below the 13600, 12900, 7600X, 1350, 5950X, but we are above the 12600K, 5900X, 12700F, couple Threadrippers, so you get the idea, well within range as you would expect for the CPU. Now in regards to thermals, things are looking great at idle. You'll notice we have all the panels on here. Currently our CPU's at around 43 degrees Celsius, our GPU's at around 32 degrees Celsius. This is under idle conditions. Now let's go ahead, let's max this thing out. We're going to be stressing the CPU and GPU to see how hot they get. Everything's been stressed for over 10 minutes now and everything is working as you would expect. So very stable power supply, which is awesome. CPU currently at 77 degrees Celsius. That's going to be right around our max. We peaked at 78. GPU currently at 66, 65 degrees Celsius, and you'll see we peaked at 67. So everything's holding steady at those temps under a full load, and it's getting nice and warm in there. No issues at all, no throttling even for that matter, which is great. So everything well within spec and range, and it's doing a really good job keeping everything nice and cool. Next up, it's time for my favorite test, where we'll be using the smoke machine to give you a nice visualizer of the airflow coming in the front panel here, how it's going to exhaust out the top and the back. Look at that. Love it, love it, love it. So we're really moving a lot of air there. As you see, we have the CPU and GPU still under full stress. So that cycles through a ton of air. Watch on the front too. Maybe you'll be able to see. It's kind of hard to showcase, but if we just zap some smoke here, get a feel for it sucking it in the sides right there. Kind of move it up and down. And you'll see right around the front how the smoke flows up and then out. But we are pulling a lot of air from the sides there, even though the front is completely solid. And then you'll see it makes its way out the top and the back. Now we're looking through the FLIR cam at our PC. We'll check some temps here. See the CPU, our RAM. Got our hotspot on the motherboard right here, where you would expect. And a hotspot on our GPU through our Spiderman plate. Looking good. Now you're looking at the backside with our exhaust fan. I/O shield doing its job here on the motherboard. Further down you'll see our GPU. And at the very bottom, our power supply unit. Pretty cool. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, let's talk about gaming. For our benchmarks, we're going to be comparing the ZOTAC Gaming RTX 4060 with the ZOTAC Gaming RTX 4060 Ti and the ZOTAC Gaming RTX 4070. First up, in regards to price, you'll see the 4060 is our most affordable option. In the middle, we have the 4060 Ti, and up at the top, our highest, most expensive GPU out of the three tested is the 4070. Next, let's talk about VRAM. So this is going to be either GDDR6 or GDDR6X. I want to mention that the 4060 and the 4060 Ti are the GDDR6 versions, both coming in at 8 gigabytes, where the 4070 comes in at 12 gigabytes and it's GDDR6X. And I believe that's going to be a more power efficient RAM. That means we can move more data, which means it's going to consume more power. So if I fully understand that, you have basically a higher performance RAM that's more energy efficient, so you can move more data, but in turn, since you're moving more data, you're consuming more power. Next, we have our boost clock. This is measured in megahertz. The 4060 and 4060 Ti both have 128-bit bus. Very similar in clock speeds across the board for all three models. You'll notice that the 4060 Ti actually has the highest boost clock here, but I do want to point out with the 4070 having that 192-bit bus, from my limited understanding, that's like having more lanes on an expressway for the data to flow through, so that's why you'll see better performance at a lower clock speed than the 4060 and 4060 Ti's. CUDA cores is something else on a GPU that typically the more the merrier. You'll want to see that higher number with your GPU to get better performance. So 4060 to 4060 Ti, you jump about 1400 CUDA cores, and same thing again when we go up from the 4060 Ti to the 4070. Next, let's move right along to our gameplay results. So for these tests, we compared all the cards at 1080p and 1440p with some popular titles available to play today. That's going to be the optimal settings and resolutions you would want with all three of these cards. We always used the highest setting possible without doing any sort of custom tweaking, and we always turned off RTX and DLSS and everything else that makes these cards special, so you can just get a nice baseline feel for the performance that you can compare to other cards, maybe AMD cards, things like that. So here's the results that we get. Forza 5 1080p Extreme, 109 average FPS for the 4060, 125 average FPS for the 4060 Ti, and 155 average FPS for the 4070. 1440p shows similar results here. 89 FPS for the 4060, 106 FPS for the 4060 Ti, and 131 FPS for the 4070. Next up is Rainbow 6 1080p Ultra. You'll see 4060 coming in average FPS of 174, 210 for the 4060 Ti, and 272 for the 4070. So pretty nice large leap for this game between the 4060 Ti and the 4070. Rainbow Six at 1440p, similar results here. 4060 coming in at 111 FPS, followed by the Ti at 140 and 178 for our 4070. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, 1080p ultra high settings, 4060 coming in at an average FPS of 116. We have the Ti coming in at an average FPS of 124, and we're starting to see some more of that separation for the 4070 coming in at 154. 1440p seems to narrow the gap a little bit with all three cards. So 4060 coming in at 86 FPS, followed by 91 for the Ti and 116 for the 4070. Far Cry 6 Ultra, this one was the most unusual result. So at 1080p, we're very almost dead even across the board. 116 average FPS for the 4060, and then we have matching average FPS values for both the 4060 Ti and the 4070. We get some more separation though at the 1440p settings. You'll see 85 FPS for a 4060, 99 for the Ti, and 112 for the 4070. Borderlands 3 with your 1080p bad settings here. 4060s coming in at 92 average FPS, followed by 116 for the Ti, and then 131 for the 4070. 1440p showing us 63 FPS for our average for the 4060, followed by 84 for the Ti and 107 for our 4070. So I really want to make it easy to try to present all this information in a way that's digestible, so I thought we'd look at the average FPS percent change. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm no scientist or data expert, but basically I took all the averages of all the different tests that we ran, and I wanted to see the percent change as we increase in model. So the 4060 is going to be your baseline. If you upgrade it to the 4060 Ti, you could expect on average around 17% average FPS increase. And for the 4070, jumping up from the 4060, you can expect around a 42% average FPS increase. Now, from the 4060 Ti to the 4070, you'll see that jumps up around 21%. So again, you might be saying, well, what does that mean? Well, I wanted to show you it in a different way. So in regards to price per GPU, again, 4060 is going to be the baseline there. You have a 27% increase in price to the 4060 Ti. And with the 4060 at the baseline, you have a 108% increase in price for the 4070 if you're upgrading from the 4060. Now from the 4060 Ti to the 4070, you'll see we have an increase in price of 63%. So let me refresh your memory here. We basically have a 17% performance boost for the 4060 Ti at a 27% price increase, and we have a 42% average FPS boost at 108% price increase. So it really comes down to what do you value most and how much are you willing to pay for it? So now let me share with you my final thoughts after using our Mech Hero gaming PC. First thing I want to say is the build quality is great. They did a nice job with the cable management, and all the parts and components play really nicely together. So with this particular build, it's nice to see too that we have name brand parts and components. They're not skimping there or giving us any sort of second class hardware in here. And we still have some of the latest and greatest. Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.2, 2.5 gig LAN, AMD 7000 series GPU, and our RTX 4060 Ti from ZOTAC Gaming. We can't forget about the ZOTAC GPU. So overall, nice parts and components. The value is there too, so it's nice to see the pre-built market start to settle back down as PC parts and components drop. We're seeing that with these as well too. They become more affordable than just necessarily building it yourself. Sure, you can do it a little bit cheaper, but honestly not that much cheaper, and why even worry about the hassle at that point? You're not going to get the fun accessories here for our Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse movie, so you'll be missing out on that. But my favorite thing, hands down, is definitely our GPU plate here. I love that it's magnetic. I mean, I don't know why you'd want to remove it, but love having that right there on the GPU. It just looks really cool with our minifigures, and you can decorate this with all the included decals as well. If I'm going to improve anything with this particular computer, it'd probably be adding a Gen 4 drive to see if we can get any faster speeds there. That's always something you could do in the future if you wanted. Also, I'd love to add some additional RAM, give us at least 32 gigabytes, but again, we have 4 slots there and 2 are still available, so we can easily do that without having to replace the current RAM, so love to see it. And the fans are a little bit loud, just FYI when you're pushing this thing to the extreme, but that's pretty typical with any computer. So overall, really happy with the price to performance. Out of the Mech Hero lineup with their 4000 series GPUs, this one seems to be the best value in my opinion.